Oh, James.
Thank you very much. I want to quickly thank Ashley, who couldn't be here, Helen, and all staff at Penn Center for such a lovely event. And I want to thank all of you for coming out. Friends, family, leaders. It means the world to me that so many of you could be here, and I thank you. I would like to single out one person for special mention and thanks. My first reader, biggest fan, and sometimes my greatest critic, my wife. Just quickly then, when I began this project years ago, faithless elector was mostly just a term of art in political science courses. Indeed, when I tried to sell the book to agents and publishers years ago, they all, well, those who project it right back, they praised the writing, but said the issues were too abstruse. No one knew or cared about electors. I think they do now.
Yeah.
I bring up the timing of the writing of these books because although they seem timely now, and they are, they're the product of a long road filled with corruption and chicanery, something glimpsed in the past, which is just now coming to fruition. Nixon famously stated that if the president does it, it's legal. Current presidential spokespeople have tautologically maintained that certain behavior is presidential because if the president does it, it's presidential. We're watching in real time, like a surreal, slow-motion car wreck, what an unfettered presidency can do. It would seem it would seem that the dark network conspirators are correct to focus on the highest office while keeping their eye on Congress. And the stakes couldn't be higher. The reward for second place is jail or death. Like the signers of the Declaration, the conspirators must hang together or hang separately. The job for them isn't even half done. The Imogen Traeger novels, which began with Faithless Elector, are about what an anti-democratic power grab looks like, what's at stake, and what a group of committed people can do. The epigram is, virtue is more to be feared than vice, because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. And that's Adam Smith. I think it's The Wealth of Nations. Chapter 1, December 22nd, Washington, D.C. It was daytime. She knew that much. Pale light filtered in from the high, arrow-slit windows on the wall behind her, scattered and reflected about the room by the two-way mirror on the wall facing her. A cold yellow light in a cold yellow room. Agent Imogen Traeger sat quietly at a metal table facing her interrogator. Though she tried to appear alert and sharp, she was tired. Tired of the questions, the repetition, the obvious way they tried to get her to implicate herself or betray herself through contradiction. What had she known? When had she known it? What did she do with the information? Whom had she told? Her fears about Duncan Calder and Doug Pollock threatened to undermine her brave exterior. Well, what does Pollock say? She had asked in exasperation. At the moment, Agent Traeger, Assistant Director Pollock is in a medically induced coma. We may never hear from him. I need to hear it from you. Imogen wondered if it was true. Wondered if Doug was being subjected to the same kind of interrogation she was. You say you suspected Agent Kurtz, Brody began. When did you begin to suspect him? What were your clues? Agent Brody flipped to a new page on his yellow pad and sat back. Imogen had grown to hate Brody in the short time they had spent together. Sporting fashionable lace-up shoes, a well-tailored, expensive midnight blue suit, he asked questions not like an investigator following information, but like an HR manager entering responses into printed boxes. He sat urbanely at an angle to the table, legs crossed, hands folded in his lap. Occasionally he would reach languidly for the pen and jot something down, the notepad at arm's length. As I believe I said before, Imogen began with elaborate patience, we did not suspect Kurtz at all, until he started shooting at us. And why do you think that was? He was terminating the only people who really knew what was going on, me, Calder, and Pollock. I mean, why didn't you suspect him? You say the whole department was dirty. I believe I said that I worried about who to trust. The operation to turn the electors was operating at a national level. My phone at the bureau had been bugged. Yes, but why trust him? Was your judgment impaired by your past relationship with Kurtz? Imogen sighed as she thought, so we're on to that now. It had taken long enough. Springfield, Illinois. In the broad hallway in front of the governor's office outside the Capitol building, the U.S. Attorney, the Illinois governor, and the Illinois Attorney General were trying to hold a joint press conference. Their responses to questions, and the questions themselves, were difficult to hear because as each spoke, a crowd of protesters, convinced the election results in the state had been sabotaged, booed and jeered from the far end. At our behest, the governor began amid shouts of derision and whistling, and working with our own Illinois Attorney General's office, the Public Integrity Office at the Justice Department has thoroughly reviewed the results, and after extensive, and the jeering grew louder, he repeated, after extensive review and re-review, the chorus of booing from the crowd gathered in the hallway and along the stairs. It gave way to chants of fix, fix, fix. The governor, no stranger to politics, nevertheless blinked into the cameras. He exchanged an amazed look with his Attorney General, who looked at the U.S. Attorney. Chicago, Illinois. 200 miles to the north, on Chicago's south side, a 12-year-old boy was accompanying his small twin brothers as they walked home from school. One of the twins pointed to something sprawled in among the ivy at the back of a fenced-in vacant lot at Justine and West 59th. Is that a man? He asked. The elder brother told him to wait. He would check. In the fading December light, he scaled the 6-foot chain-link fence quickly and dropped down on the other side. Stay there, he said again to the twins from his side of the fence. He pulled out his phone and switched on the flashlight as he walked cautiously toward where vines had grown over and through the fence at the back. Next to the lot was another empty lot, and next to that, an abandoned building. Behind, an alley and another abandoned building. Nothing moved. There was no sound but the small twins in their big coats kicking at the dirt, covering a depression in the pavement. As he moved closer, he could see what looked like an arm reaching out imploringly across the grass. He stopped and crouched down a few feet from the outstretched fingertips and aimed the light into the underbrush. Mister? He said. He looked over his shoulder to check again on his brothers. Is he dead? One of them called out. The boy shone his light on the hand, then traveled along the arm until it reached the man's face, which was spattered in fresh coagulated blood. Mister? He called again, staring into the corpse's open eyes. He pushed aside some of the vines for a better look. The dead man had been shot through the neck and in the head. The boy stood up abruptly. He dialed 911. There's a dead man at the back of the fenced lot, 59th and Justine, he said to the dispatcher. Me and my brothers found the body. He's been shot. He hung up, crouched down again, and took a picture for Instagram. And ran back to his brothers. He scaled the fence again and dropped to the ground in front of them. He knelt down, zipped up the coat of one twin a bit tighter, and helped the other one get his mitten back on. He looked toward the back of the lot, now shrouded in darkness. All right, he said, let's get home. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. There's an author party, of course, so it's time to party. There's cheese, there's wine. We have plenty of copies of the book, and I'll be happy to sign them, obviously. Just quickly, though, I wrote the book for people who crave a smart story. Oh, and I obviously wrote it for thriller and mystery fans. Publishers Weekly has compared Dark Network to the work of David Baldacci and Brian Meltzer, which was very kind of them. While the story isn't about what's going on now, I think when you read it, you'll find yourself looking at the circus in new ways. You'll also see the stakes beyond the noise and outrage. As well as entertained, I think you'll be rejuvenated. These stories aren't about giving up, but about more or less ordinary people finding a way to act, to push back. I think it's a story we all need.